Hello, welcome back to Ask a Monk. Today's question comes from Pedro C., who asks, people tend to think one can learn from errors. However, only seldom this is true. What makes us learn from mistakes, and when do we ignore these lessons? Good question. The Buddha was pretty clear about this sort of thing, that it's not true that a person who suffers is necessarily going to be any wiser than a person who does not suffer so much. A person who makes a lot of mistakes is not necessarily going to learn more. However, we're all quite aware that it's a chance to learn something, because obviously the learning from one's mistakes is how you avoid making them in the future. The difference is wise attention, something called yoniso manasikara. Manasikara means to keep in mind, or to pay attention to. Manas means in the mind, kara means to make. Manasi, in the mind, kara, to make, to establish in the mind wisely, or to set your mind on something with wisdom. Yoniso, which literally translates going back to the origin. So it means when something occurs, when something happens, the ability to examine it and reflect upon it and to see it clearly, which obviously is the practice of meditation. When you are meditating, the word meditation, that's really what it means. It means the measurement, the examination, the analysis, and the understanding of a situation, of a reality. So when we make a mistake, when we say something wrong, when we do something wrong, we can see what are the causes, and we can see what are the effects. We can see what it was that led us to fall into the mind states that caused us to do something wrong. The interesting thing is we can often see how many of the things that we thought were mistakes, in the sense of we did something wrong, are actually not really mistakes per se. For example, you might forget an appointment, or you might make a mistake in calculating, or in you might give a speech and say the wrong thing, and it may be simply a physical failure, where the brain, the memory fails you, or the organic nature of our being is in that way. And so I think it's important to understand that oftentimes we, instead of learning from our mistakes, actually feel guilty about those situations that are not necessarily our fault. And I think this is an important part of learning from our mistakes as well, that we don't... The most important point isn't that you made a mistake. The important point is the clear awareness and understanding of the situation. So if anger arises in you, if greed arises in you, if delusion and ego and so on arises in you, it's the ability to catch this and to see it, and to adjust the mind, and to create wisdom, and to remove those states. If something happens that causes people to get angry at you, or give rise to ego and self-righteousness and so on in other people, where they say this person did this terrible thing, or this person is lazy, or this person is incompetent, or so on, then oftentimes it's not our fault. Oftentimes this is the nature of reality. So it's important on the one hand to be able to discriminate between what is truly a mistake and what is simply a part of life. You can't please everyone all the time. And it can be that with the best intentions you said something that insulted or angered other people. It could be even that you said something right and people didn't like it. It could be that you said something wrong but you didn't mean it, or you you weren't clear enough, or you used the wrong words, or so on. And so, important not to be too hard on ourselves. But on the other hand, when we do make mistakes, when we do give rise to greed, anger, delusion, and so on, jealousy, stinginess, or whatever, something that leads us to do something that intentionally causes suffering for ourselves or others, this is the point. This is what is really a mistake. And learning from it, it doesn't simply mean not doing it again. It means coming to understand the situation, because too often we think learning from a mistake is simply hating, getting angry at ourselves and saying, don't do that ever again, don't do that ever again. And it may lead us to be able to avoid a certain situation simply by brute force of will, but it won't change the reasons why we did that, which are the greed, the anger, the delusion, the unwholesomeness in the mind. Once we come to see that this is causing suffering, we won't do it anymore. As I've said before, we don't. There's no one who intentionally causes suffering. We do it out of the idea that it's somehow going to bring happiness, that it's going to bring benefit to us, that it's going to somehow bring happiness to us. And once we realize that it's actually causing us suffering, we won't engage in it. We'll realize that there's no benefit. Once we realize there's no benefit, this is learning from your mistakes. So, and that's from a Buddhist point of view. So I hope that helps. Thanks for the question.